Welcome to the tutorial, Cinahl, a quick introduction. Cinahl is an acronym for Cumulated Index to Nursing and Allied Health Literature. It's a database provided by EBSCO that indexes nursing and allied health journals from 1981 to present. Cinahl also indexes other resources, including healthcare books, nursing dissertations, conference proceedings, standards of practice, legal cases, clinical trials, book chapters, and audio visuals. It's a great resource for getting the nursing and allied health perspective on many aspects of both health and the healthcare industry. To find Cinahl, go to eResources on the library's homepage, which is medlib.bu.edu. Select Databases. Go to the letter C. And if you scroll down slightly, you can see Cinahl here. Click on it. Since Cinahl is a subscription database, you'll be required to log in with your BU username and password. Suppose you're researching effectively screening for depression in elderly men. To begin, we'll just use these search boxes and put in depression and screening and elderly men. And then I'll hit search. Now it looks like there's not much in the database. We're only getting 19 results. But for a question like this, where you're looking at a specific demographic, instead of putting in the search term for that demographic, it often is better to use filters, also called limits. That will help you narrow it down to the demographic. In many databases, all the filters are listed on this left-hand side. But in Cinahl, in order to get to all of them, you actually need to go from the main search page. So click on New Search. I'm going to put in depression and screening again. But this time we're going to scroll down and look at these limits. You can see there are many options available, such as the publication date, the author, whether the subject is human or not. There's also a section here for clinical queries if you have an evidence-based medicine question. You can select that the first author should be a nurse if you want to be sure that you're getting a nurse's perspective. There are journal subsets for various special topics, such as complementary medicine. You can limit to a certain area of the world, so if you were only interested in the United States, you can select that. And here you can see you can limit by gender and age group. So I'm going to select men. And for age group, I'm going to scroll down and select aged 65 and up. So I'm going to scroll back up now that I've selected my limits, and I'm going to hit search. Now you can see we have 960 results, which is a lot more than the 19 we had before. But 960 is a bit too many for us to go through all at once, so we could further use these other limits on the left-hand side to narrow things down a bit more. Some of these are the same as on the home page, and some of them are different. First, it's usually good to narrow down to more recent articles, so with the publication date limit, I'm going to narrow this down to the last 10 years. So 2003 to 2013, and then say update. That gets rid of a few hundred of our hits. You can see that you can also narrow by source type. So academic journals, CEUs, there's continuing education credits, and I can turn that on to just view those. But if I decide that I want more than just those 9, I can turn it back off. Right here are the filters that are turned on, and I can click the X box next to it to turn it back off. Another interesting limit on the left-hand side is this subject major heading. These are the tags that are showing up frequently on these articles, so looking at this might help you find another limit that might be useful for you. So maybe you say, oh, instrument validation would actually be relevant to my topic, so I'm going to select that and then say update. And that gets us down to 88 results. The other limits available are age, which we already have turned on, and publication, that's a specific journal. So if you decided you were only interested in articles from a specific journal you have access to, you could turn that on. Now let's look at our results. While some of these are pretty relevant to our searches, others of them are kind of off the mark, such as this first one about the anxiety scale. Anxiety isn't the same as depression. Or this one, which is about auditory memory testing. Again, that's not depression. In a case like this, it can be a good idea to use indexing terms to further fine-tune our results. Indexing terms, called Cinahl headings in Cinahl, are a list of pre-agreed upon terms that items entered into a database are tagged with. Thus, if an item in the database is about depression, it will be tagged with the appropriate indexing term for depression. This helps eliminate confusion surrounding concepts for which there are multiple synonyms. The person tagging the item also selects a few of the terms as major subjects. This means that the item is primarily about this term. So searching for a major subject term helps eliminate items that only briefly mention your topic, like I'm sure this article probably briefly mentions depression in elderly men. To figure out the appropriate Cinahl headings to use, you must search the Cinahl headings thesaurus, which you can find right up here. To begin, you want to put in the first term that you yourself are thinking of, which in this case is depression. You can see here the list of terms that they think that we might be thinking of. In this case, depression is what we definitely want, so I'm going to check that off. These here are subheadings, so if I turned on, for instance, just the checkbox next to drug therapy, then only articles about the drug therapy for depression would come up. But in this case, I'm just going to leave off the subheadings because I want to see how many results I get without them first before I start further narrowing my search. One thing I am going to turn on, though, is this checkbox for major concept. Remember I mentioned earlier that major concept will make sure that depression is the focus of the article, as opposed to just being briefly mentioned. So unfortunately, I have to run each of these terms individually and then combine them later. So I found my one term, so I'm going to say search database. So now here are all the results in Cinahl for depression. So now I need to do the same thing again for screening. So go back to Cinahl headings and type in screening. Now you'll see a note at the top that says for screening to use health screening, and I see health screening right here. So it's telling me specifically for exactly the term I put in, this is the exact right term. So since I know that, I'm going to use the checkbox next to it to select it, and I'm again going to select it as a major topic. Now I'm going to say search database. Now how do I combine that with depression? You need to use the search history, which is right here underneath the search boxes. The search history tracks everything you've done since you've logged into Cinahl. If you click on it, it will open it up for you. And now you can easily either go back and view previous searches by clicking on View Results, or you combine previous searches together. So I want to combine depression and health screening. So I'll say click off the checkboxes next to them, and then say search with and. Now you can see that I'm getting 284 results. In order to view them, I'll click on View Results. So now I have health screening and depression, but I need to turn back on my filters for aged, male, and publication date because they turned themselves back off. So over here I need to put back in my publication date time span, which is 2003 to present, and say update. And then I also need to scroll down and turn on aged and update. And finally, we need to turn on the filter for male and update. Now you can see that we only have 65 results as opposed to the 88 we had with our original natural language search, but if you look at the items in the search results, you can see that they are much more relevant to the search query that we were originally thinking of. See, we have diagnosis of depression in patients, we have the mental component of a short form health survey, screening. These are all much more relevant to what we wanted. Now you can see that these results are automatically sorted by date newest. You could change that to date oldest, or by relevance, or source or author. And let's say that you really like this article. I'm going to click on it. And here you can view the abstract, and you can also see exactly what major subjects this item was tagged with. So if you see another subject that you keep seeing show up on the articles you really like, you could try running a search for that major subject and adding it into your search as well. For instance, this is specifically about the diagnosis of depression, so maybe that subheading would be good for you. Once you've found the items that you want to read, you of course will want to access the full text. Let's go back to our search results. If Cinahl is able to easily find the precise PDF or HTML website of the full text of the item, it will directly link you to it. This here that says linked full text with the globe, that is a link to an HTML version which will look like a web page. This here that says PDF full text, if you click on it, it will bring you directly to the PDF full text of that precise article. Now, just because you don't see a link for the PDF or the HTML full text doesn't mean that we don't own access to it. But it does mean is that Cinahl wasn't able to easily find a direct link. So for all the other items, there's this Find It BU button. That doesn't necessarily mean that we own access to it, but it means that Cinahl will check for you. So if we wanted to view the full text of this first item, we would click on Find It BU, and it will open a separate window and check the library's catalog for you. Click View It to see if we own it or not. And here you can see that we have the full text from 1998. If you go back and look, you can see that this article is from 2013, so you'll be able to access it. You just would need to click on this link and then go to the appropriate issue of the journal in order to view the full text. It does take a couple more minutes than directly linking through the PDF, but at least you'll be able to read the full text of the article. Now, if we don't own the full text, that of course doesn't mean that you can't read it. You can always check to see if any of the Boston Library Consortium libraries have it, or you can put in an interlibrary loan request. Thank you for watching this tutorial. For more information about this or any other library resources or services, please feel free to contact the reference desk at 617-638-4228 or refquest@bu.edu.